anyway, be that as it may. I want to welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Donna Parteau with the Lifestyle Freedom Show, and I want to introduce you to today's guest. And it is Wendy Massey, and she is the author of this brand new this is a big bestseller. This is one of the top health and wellness books on all of Amazon right now.
Yes, ma'am.
Incredible how well this is doing. You're up there with the big boys, with the Dr. Mark Hyman and all those people. It's really been amazing to watch what God has done, and it's out of the seeds that you have sown for. I'm letting some people into the room here for more than a decade, and
yes.
You've sown into this. And I just want to encourage those people who are joining us. And I know you're here to hear Wendy's message that grew out of her own life experience. And it's going to be incredible. But I also want you to think about, what is your life message? What journey has God taken you through? And maybe it's time to take that to the world. Wendy began in nursing when she was 19, right? They called them candy stripers. Started out working in the hospital as an assistant, always had that passion for health, became an RN, a trauma and an ER nurse. You're like my sister. She's like, it'd be really fun to get on a helicopter and arrive at a car crash. Those are nurses, they're not just giving you your checkup and your checking your blood pressure. Those are the real nurses. So she's real hardcore life-saving nurses in there. I guess you guys are all adrenaline junkies if the truth were told, but there you go, Wendy, we've got your number already. She's currently pursuing her PhD, finishing that up. So a genuine passion from an early age, knew that God was calling her to health, went the conventional route, and woke up one day in the middle of a crisis, and the conventional medicine that she had devoted her entire life to didn't have answers. And she's going to be sharing that story in just a couple of minutes. She's the founder of Massey Wellness, and she does, testing and analysis and coaching to help people discover the healing power of God's food. God is so wise, and He's provided everything that we need for life and godliness, for life, for the abundant life that He has called us to. He's put it all in His food. And so she's passionate about teaching people the healing power of food. She's a wife, she's a mom, and I'm very jealous because she's a grandma. Where are my grandkids? That's what I want to know. She's a holistic nutrition expert. And as I mentioned, the best-selling author of this incredible new book, The Ultimate Meal Prep Guide to Simplify Clean Eating, How to Cook Once, to Save Money and Feel Better in just 4 hours per month. This is a revolutionary system that anyone can do. Even me, I just can't. I do not like being in the kitchen at all. And I'm loving this, and I'm actually doing this. So Wendy, welcome.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Well, we're going to dive into your story, but I want to give my testimony real quick because I might forget. I'm sleep deprived. My dog had a stroke yesterday, so I'm a little sleep deprived. But I read your book. I love your book. And I, was thinking about it. Your idea of if you're going to make one, why don't you make a bunch? And this is a true story. I was making a little shake, and I had all the ingredients, and I was like, I should do this. Why am I just making one? I only need a quarter of this avocado. I'll make 4. And I'm like, might as well make 8. So I just went through, and all the same ingredients that I usually put in one shake, I put in plastic bags and made 8 shakes in not much more time than it took me to have made one. And I was like, oh, I'm going to do 8 more. So this morning I was up all night with my dog, and all I had to do was go to the freezer, sleep deprived, I just dump out that bag, and in seconds I had my shake. And this really, it it's so obvious in a way, but I never thought of it. So anyway, so that's my testimony about how your book has already changed my life and made a big difference for me this morning. Okay. I didn't have to have like Captain Crunch cereal or something. I could have a nice, nutritious, healthy, clean shake, one of your recipes that I had this morning. So Wendy, I want to start with your story. I shared a little bit, you were a nurse, traditional medicine, all of that. And then it goes south. Tell us your story.
Yes, ma'am. I was an all-in ER nurse. My whole world was ER nursing. I loved it. I was an adrenaline junkie. Single mom at the time, have had two teenagers at the time.
Oh, girl.
And I know. And this was about 11 years ago, roughly. My son, all of a sudden, who had just become a type 1 diabetic, so that was already a big adjustment for us. He, after about 9 months of us managing his new diagnosis of diabetes, developed a horrible GI condition. He was 18, 19 years old at the time, and he was very active, typically running every day, worked 2 jobs post high school, just very, very active kid. And all of a sudden he couldn't hardly get out of bed. Or he would call me from the bathroom at Cracker Barrel where he was working in tears because he couldn't get out of the bathroom. And he just had this horrible problem. So for about 9 months, we were in and out of doctors' offices. With a lot of the best doctors I knew, I drove 5 hours to Johns Hopkins because I wanted to get him into the best specialists.
Yeah, that's the top medical school in the world, right?
Absolutely. And I was taking him to, I was just, trying to get him into everywhere I could think of. And they just kept giving him pills and procedures and he kept getting sicker. We eventually got to the point where he was 118 pounds at 6 feet tall. It was devastating. And, it dawned on me one day that nobody was asking me what he was eating. And it really made me think about my own nursing education and how we got a little 3-week crash course on the food pyramid. And that was about the extent of our nutrition education. And I started researching and finding out that the medical schools teach less than the nursing schools do about nutrition. So at first I was upset, and then I said, okay, well, being upset isn't going to help anything. I need to learn what I need to do for my son. And I did my own research and was able to heal him in 5 weeks' time.
Wow.
Got him off all the medications he'd been put on, except for, of course, his insulin. And he was running again at the end of that 5 weeks and ran a 10K. He's now 11 years later, 11 years older. He's about to turn 30. He's never been hospitalized. We now know what he had was celiacs that went undetected in all the blood work. And he's never had to spend any time in the hospital or anything like that. He's completely healed with food.
You know what's so incredible? Well, first of all, like, what won't we do for our children?
Right.
And I know that so many people tuning in, or people who will watch the replay, they have children or they have grandchildren that they love. And I would imagine if you're in the United States, the health of those children and grandchildren is almost certainly suboptimal.
Absolutely.
Just because of the poor quality of the food that we eat. It's so funny. I told you my dog had a stroke. So my daughter and I were at the vet, and we were talking about this exact thing, like the poor quality of the way people eat. And it really, you found such dramatic results. And I want people to think about what if eating God's food can do that in 5 weeks for your son. I mean, over 6 foot, how much did you say?
118 pounds is what he got.
I just, as a mother, like, can you imagine what might this do for you? And so he regained his health while you lost 60 pounds. Tell us about that real quick.
Yes. When I started doing all this research and I developed a program intending for him. And I said, well, to be supportive mom, I'm
Sure,
going to do it
of
with
course.
you. So as I'm teaching him to eat the proper foods and then I'm eating the proper foods, I lost 65 pounds. So it worked for both of us just because we were finally fueling our bodies with
Wow.
natural, clean foods that God intended.
And the incredible thing is, I mean, your whole life from the time you were 19 and probably starting younger was all about health.
Yeah.
You're an RN, you're a nurse, a high level nurse, and
Yes.
yet not hearing anything about the fact that maybe the foods that we eat might be a factor in how we're feeling. It's really just mind numbing. I think, most people think, I should probably eat better.
Yeah.
Right. But yet most of us don't. And we certainly don't eat clean. I don't know if
Right.
you want to at some point define what you mean by clean. It's God's food, right? With not a lot of chemicals in it, basically,
Absolutely.
as close to the way God made it. So that it looks like, it's a peanut that looks like a peanut.
Right.
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 Okay.
It
So what do you
basically,
think? What's like the biggest frustration? Like I'm sure everybody comes to you. I mean, they watched you restore your son's health. They watched you lose 65 pounds. They watch you suddenly wake up to like a whole new calling. So I'm sure people started coming to you, just like people are like tuning in right now. What's like the biggest thing that you hear from people? It's like, I know I should eat better and I don't feel good. And I'm downing 3 cups of coffee, 4 cups of coffee, trying to get some energy. What's like the biggest thing that you hear?
the biggest thing I hear is that people don't feel like they have time.
Yeah.
Everybody is so incredibly busy these days. We've worked ourselves into such a busy world, and honestly, what I feel like a lot of this is it's a result of the disease of convenience. We've all been searching for all the conveniences to try and eat healthy, whereas most of our convenient options aren't the healthiest options. Fast food and microwavable meals and, even Nutrisystem, it'll deliver everything to you and it's all processed foods, so we're always searching for that quick fix, that quick answer, because we're so busy.
Yeah. And life does go at a fast pace. And I do think, I mean, I've traveled to like 40 countries all over the world. And I will tell you that people everywhere like to eat.
Yeah.
But they're not like they're not as big as Americans. And
Right.
I don't think it's just that we love to eat because everybody loves to eat. It's the poor quality of the food.
It is. It is. It's the high carbs, high, processed foods, all the toxins in our foods. A lot of people don't realize that there's over 70,000 chemicals that have been created in the last 100 years that we are exposed to. Some of it environmentally, a lot of it in our personal care products, but a lot of it is in our foods. And our bodies weren't designed to know what to do with these chemicals. We didn't have to process them through our systems. So our poor livers just work overtime trying to filter all of this garbage out. And when we're continuing to put all this stuff in our bodies, we're creating inflammatory processes in the forms of significant weight gain, all kinds of diseases, cancers, all just the list goes on and on of what the food choices from the toxins do to our bodies.
And I think a lot of people are, they're put on a guilt trip or they're made to feel bad about, well, you need to just eat less and exercise more. And they're like, I don't really think I'm eating that much.
Right. Right.
And it's not that you're eating. Number one, it's either that it's not that you're eating too much, it's the quality of the food that you're eating, or you're eating food that they've deliberately made addictive.
Yes. Yes. And that's exactly the case, which will cause us to overeat on those foods. There's ingredients and flavorings specifically put into our foods. They have flavor scientists that they know.
PhDs.
Yes, they know that they
Yes.
are putting ingredients into our foods to make you unsatisfied so that you keep coming back.
Yeah,
And
it's
it's
amazing.
really incredible.
What's amazing is that this is illegal in Europe.
It is.
You're not allowed to do this. There are so many things that they're like Frankensteining our food. So I just want people to know, if you're struggling with your health, you're struggling with your weight, just breathe and stop beating yourself up, because it's not gonna, and I get it, I've been there. Who else gained weight during COVID? I mean, they locked us in. I live 2 blocks from the beach. They closed the beaches. Listen, there's a worldwide health crisis. Do not get fresh air, sunshine, or exercise on the beach.
Right.
Lock yourself in your house and do a Netflix binge. And
Right.
the whole world, literally barricaded the beaches.
Yeah.
So no one can get any exercise pressure. It's the whole world's gone crazy. It's Wendy, it's you and I, and whoever's tuning in. We're the last sane people left. And I want people to be encouraged. Number one, that it's not your imagination. It really is a battle for your health. But fortunately, we've got answers, and I want to put everyone's mind at ease. A lot of times you come to these, Zooms, those joining us live or watching the replay, and either they're trying to sell you something or they want to give you work to do. And nothing's for sale. We're just here to bless you. And in fact, all this week, if you're joining us live, Wendy is giving away free copies of this book, The Ultimate Meal Prep Guide to Simplify Clean Eating. It's how to cook once to save money and feel better in just 4 hours a month. We'll talk more about that in a minute, because you've developed a whole system. Just once a month, you're going to have one really bad day. Your kitchen's going to look like the bomb exploded in it. You have to get the kids out. It's going to be one really long, tough day. Probably in the beginning, more like 6 hours, because people aren't used to it, right? So you could just take that one day a month and get all your cooking done, get everything prepped. And then the rest of the month, you've got healthy fast food options. So I think it's really, really amazing. And you can go to her website, which is simplifycleaneating.com. Is that it?
That's correct.
Okay, simplifycleaneating.com, simplifycleaneating.com. And on that page, you'll see a link over to Amazon where you can get the Kindle free all this week. I would encourage you. I love the paperback. I'm using it all the time. I'm using her recipes. I think they're amazing. That's also where you can find out she's going to have it's a 4-day challenge live.
Yes.
Okay, so she's going to have a free 4-day clean eating challenge. You can find out about that. She's got a Facebook group where she shares so much information. I was watching you, Wendy, the other day, and you shared your morning detox drink. I've been doing it ever since. Tell us about we're going to dive in, but I tell us about this detox drink that people can make. And I bought the Yeti. I'm doing what you say, Wendy.
That's awesome. Yes, the morning detox drink that I encourage everybody to do. It is, I encourage everybody to get about a 30-ounce stainless steel mug. Those are the best, any kind of heat tolerant mug. Put half a lemon for increased vitamin C, about 1 to 2 tablespoons of raw organic apple cider vinegar, because it has antiviral properties, anti-inflammatory, antibacterial properties, so much good in that. About 1/2 inch to 1 inch of ginger root for good GI health, a cinnamon stick, makes it taste really good, but also it's good anti-inflammatory properties. And then I always tell people the optional 2 things I've recently in the last year or so started adding is about half an inch of turmeric root and a few black peppercorns. And that also helps inflammatory processes. But you throw it all in your mug, you steep it in hot water all the way up to the top, and drink that for your first 30 ounces of your water a day. And it does amazing things for your inflammatory processes going on in your body, and helps detox you fully.
So if women just make that one change, start your day with that. Like, we're not saying don't have coffee. She probably doesn't have coffee.
Oh, I have coffee.
Okay, good. We do have coffee. But just before you have your coffee, make this. And it's kind of fun. And I didn't know about peppercorns. I've been missing that. And I didn't even know what a turmeric root was. So I had to ask the guy at Whole Foods. I'm like, what's a turmeric root? But now I've got them. So, and it's pretty quick, and you make that, and that's 30. First of all, that's making you get 30 ounces of water, which there's probably people who they don't have that all, right? A lot of people don't have that all day.
True.
So that one change is going to do a lot for their health, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I encourage everybody to do that every day.
Well, I'm loving it. I've gotten into the habit and I'm really, really enjoying that one simple thing. And I'm making your little, and then do one of your shakes. This is so easy. Okay. All right. Let's dive in. So the big objection that you hear is that I don't have time. Where am I going to find the time? So tell us your experience of that.
So when I had no choice, when I started going through what I went through with my son, with Matthew, I was a 60 to 70 hour a week ER nurse. There
Wow.
was absolutely, when I tell you I didn't have time, I didn't have time. But I also knew that there weren't a lot of convenient options out there that were going to give him the healthy foods that he needed, that I needed, that I wanted to feed the family now that I knew what I knew. So I started creating meal prep strategies, and my 1 to 2 days off a week. At first, it started as, okay, let me just get through to my next day off. And I started creating strategies just to get me through to that next point. And then I started realizing I'm already in here in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Let me do this, instead of doing every single day I have off, spending 2, 3, 4, 5 hours in the kitchen. Why don't I knock it all out in bulk? And so, and I went through periods where some days it was 10 hours. And so until I started refining it and learning,
Right.
how to do easier things. But I've gotten it to where I literally will spend 4, like you said, if somebody's brand new, expect 6, because it is a
Sure.
process to learn this, but 4 hours a month. I just did this with my sister on Saturday and broadcasted it live. We did it in 3 hours and 22 minutes
You're kidding.
and made
How do
four.
people get, is there any way that people can get access to this type of
Yeah,
thing?
yeah. As a matter of fact, in the simplifycleaneating.com, I do have a monthly meal prep club where I
Okay.
broadcast this. And right now you can get the 30 days free, no obligation, if you want to see how I do all that.
So they can cook with it. I love this. I love this. So you're doing it and they're doing it, like you tell them what to get and then you guys all do it together?
That's correct. That's correct. And I did have quite a few people live doing it with us while we were doing it. Sometimes people like to watch us and then do it themselves on another
Right?
day that's the plan. But yeah, my sister and I knocked it out in 3 hours and 22 minutes
I
on
love
camera.
this. I know,
On
I love this idea. So once a month, so they can be part of this club with you, and
Mhm.
you send them all the recipes, and they're all good. I haven't made all of them, but I've made a bunch of them just in the book. And so they join you live, and you're like, okay, now all we're going to cut this, and you do it in like batches, and you make it. You've got it like down to a scientific system, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You do it in this order. I give you the step-by-step guide. I walk you through everything. And the nice thing is you don't even have to join the club to see what I teach in the very first in the book.
Right.
Which I can't remember if it's chapter 10. Anyway, right towards the end, I have a full step-by-step guide of what I do share monthly. But then you don't want to do the same recipes every single month. I
Right.
give you recipes in the book, but then in the monthly meal prep club, I do different recipes every month and walk you through the step-by-step guide for those recipes every single month.
Well, I shared, already. I mean, and I've just read this and have been working with you a little bit, and it's just changing my thinking. That I absolutely happened to me in real time last week. I was making one shake, and I heard, it must have been your voice, my brain, like, why are you just making one? Because like I said, I only needed a quarter of the avocado.
Right.
It's like, why put the avocado away? Just make make 4 shakes.
Absolutely.
And I ended up making 16, and they're all waiting, and it makes your life so much easier. I encourage everybody, you can get it free this week on Kindle. Go to simplifycleaneating.com, simplifycleaneating.com. I think you might want to get the paperback. I love having the paperback, but the Kindle edition is free, and she really maps out the process. So why don't you tell us, you want to walk us through the process? You've got an acronym for it. Do you want to walk us through that real quick and your strategy behind this?
Sure, sure. I teach people that I'm going to guide them through the riches.
Okay.
RICHES. So R is for realization. That is
Let's have everybody write that down. Everybody write down, maybe grab a pen, paper, and write down in a line, riches, RICHE, and then you can go through and tell us what each of those are. Okay, so
Absolutely.
go ahead.
So R is realization. If you don't have the mindset and realize how important it is to even change your life, you're not going to buy into the need to do all of this. So I really do try and teach you that it's important for you to make the realization first of how necessary this is for your health, uh, how you can actually save money because you aren't going to make snap decisions to all of a sudden everybody go out for, takeout and things like that because you already have items on hand. How you're going to save time because you're already going to have all of these things already cooked in a short window of time. So it's the R is basically the realization of how important this is in your life.
Because I
Um,
know one thing that a lot of people say, and I think this too, like healthy food is so expensive,
yeah,
right? But
yeah,
then go order a pizza these days.
right, right.
Everything is unhealthy food is expensive too, because then you end up eating out and then you
Right.
got a tip. Like now, isn't the craziest thing? Like you walk up to the counter and now they're suggesting, I just went out yesterday, order at the counter. Not, I mean, you don't have a waitress coming to you. The now suggested tip is 25%.
Oh my
So
goodness.
I think that this objection that healthy eating is expensive, I think maybe we need to realize that eating is expensive. Eating
Yes.
out is expensive. Losing your health is expensive. Not,
Yes.
not operating at your very best, filling your body with chemicals and toxins and waking up one day and finding out that have to have this surgery
Yeah.
because you haven't taken care of yourself,
Yeah.
realizing that. I remember when I first started going to Whole Foods, I'm like, oh, it's expensive. Well, what price is your health? And
Exactly.
you eat less of healthy foods. That's the other thing, right?
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say is that we find that we actually purchase
Yep,
fewer groceries
it's true.
because when like I was mentioning earlier about all these toxins, when your body is being filled with a bunch of processed foods and it doesn't know what to do with them, it's also not utilizing
Right.
all of the foods for nutrients. When you're filling your body with foods that are truly nutrient dense foods, you don't eat as much. You don't
Yep.
need as much. So you aren't buying as much.
So
And
true.
it's really fascinating. Plus, I think one of the reasons why we really believe it costs so much more, go look at the health food aisle and all of their processed foods. Just
Right.
because it says organic, just because it's on a health food aisle does not mean it's healthy. So, and that's one of the things I teach is reading labels, which is not the most fun thing to learn. But when you do start recognizing that, wow, that $8 box of bars that I think is healthy is still just as bad as if I buy, $2 box of granola bars,
Yeah,
so
remember when we thought granola bars were healthy? And they're like
yeah,
the worst thing that you could be
yeah,
eating. It's like nothing but sugar and gluten. And I was like, but
yeah,
the apples don't have labels.
right.
Celery doesn't have labels.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like it should be, if it's God's food, there's one ingredient. Like eat
Yeah,
foods with one ingredient. That simplifies everything. I tell
yeah,
me, just shop the perimeter. Don't
remember,
go into the middle. That's the danger zone. So R is realizing that this is important. Now, for you, it was your son's health crisis. I imagine looking in the mirror and realizing you're 65 pounds overweight. For some of us, it's, the COVID-20, right? Anybody else, the COVID-20, can you relate? So that's R. And then, so what's I?
I is inventory and identify. So I walk you through a process of shopping your own pantry first. I don't want anybody to stress out over all of a sudden thinking I have to throw everything away and go buy all new stuff. So I teach you how to shop your pantry first, inventory what you have, and come up with a plan of what you're going to cook using foods you already have.
Yeah.
And then from there, you can identify, okay, well, I'm going to make this amazing pasta sauce because I have these canned tomatoes and I have this, chickpea pasta on hand, but all I need is some ground turkey. Okay, great. So, once you start looking at what you already have, then you can create, a plan for your month.
Yeah, I like that. You encourage people to use up what you have, and you gradually switch over to healthier options. I thought that was really good. And just on a personal note, you'll have to let me know what I can do with coconut flakes, because I accidentally got a giant like lifetime supply of it. So if you have any ideas what to do with those coconut flakes, I got them from some recipe and I didn't remember what one, but there they are, and would be good to use those up. Okay, so see.
C is calendar. So this is where you make a commitment to yourself that you're going to say, okay, this afternoon is the day I'm going to do this. You might have a friend who wants to do it with
Yeah,
you, so
good.
you can coordinate with them. But it is really important that you don't just say, oh, one day I'm going to do
Mhm.
this. No, make a commitment. Look at your calendar, say, I'm blocking off this half a day, and this is how I'm going to spend this half a day so that we fill the house with healthy foods
Yeah.
for a
It's
month.
a good idea. I remember even as a young mother, I guess it was probably Saturdays, I would do this kind of thing. There was a big book back in the day, back in the Stone Ages, called Once a Month Cooking. And it wasn't healthy food, but we would make I would make all these muffins, and I would make soups, and I would make stews, and we would have that for the week, and I would make anyway. But it's a good habit to get into. And if people want, they can cook with you once a month, so they could calendar that. That would be kind of fun, and be part of the club, and all the women are joining together and spurring one another on. I really love that idea. Okay, so get it on your calendar. What day, once a month, if you want to do, do some of it once a week, and not do all the recipes. Like I started with just a couple recipes to do once a week.
Yeah.
But I think if people check out your club, again, go to Simplify Clean Eating, and get into her world, join her Facebook group, get on her list. She's got a free recipe book, and you get that, and then you can get into Wendy world and find out all the amazing things. But I think that the club is a really great idea, because that kind of like forces you, like, okay, I'm in this club, and on this date, it's on the calendar. Someone's putting it on the calendar for me. I get to show up, and I'm going to cook live, and we're going to all do it together. And it helps, because I don't know how to cook. My mom loved to cook. So she'd get out of here, kids, go away. This is mom's time in the kitchen. So I didn't know. I'm clueless. So it's good to kind of watch someone doing it. Okay. So what's H?
H is harvest. This is when you're harvesting all your ingredients.
Okay.
When you're and I give step-by-step examples in the book as to the healthiest ways to do this, as far as you don't want to buy your meat too far in advance, but you get that amazing deal on chicken thighs. You might want to get them ahead of time and put them in your freezer, to prepare you. So I show you the ways that you go through and harvest all your ingredients. I also one of the things that I do help people with, because a lot of people don't want to do label reading. So for non-perishable items, I provide
Not at all.
I provide shopping links.
Just tell me what to buy, Wendy.
Yeah,
I ain't got time. Ain't nobody got time for that.
Right. So that's what I do. I provide links so that if you don't want to look them up, I live out in the country, so I won't go drive to a bunch of different stores to get what I need. So I've gotten used to, there's quite a few things that I'll just Amazon.
That's what I did, Wendy. I just went to your website and just clicked all the stuff that you told. And that's what makes this fun. This is to make these recipes. I just click on Amazon, and the Amazon brings it to me. And then anything else, I can go over to the, if you have a farmer's market or a Whole Foods, or, your grocery store, whatever, get those other, perishable items, and you've got it made. Making it easy. You are simplifying clean eating for everybody. I love this. I think what you're doing is incredible. I really do. I think it's really, really valuable. And I think people need to check out what you've got going over there. So are we on H? H is harvest. So you have you're like one of those ninja money saver people.
Yeah.
I'm just going to click and get it from Amazon. Okay. So that's harvesting. We've got 2 steps left. And Rich's E.
E is execute. That is absolutely doing the work that day. I also have some pre-work I do to show you, how you can make things easier. I have an organization system where I put what I'm doing on 3x5 cards, and I label my bags so that, you know what is going in the different bags of all the freezer meals you're doing. And one of the things that I've done and it was actually my daughter's brilliant idea. I was so excited. It was to create labels now. So, why she didn't think of this for me when I was doing this years ago. But now what we've done is she creates a template for me for all of the club members, so that you can literally just print out the labels, peel them and stick them on the bags, and then you're done. So so we do that. And then of course I have the step-by-step plan for what we're all going to cook
It's
for.
so obvious. I mean, now that I've done it, it's like, duh, why didn't I think of this? I can't even tell you how easy it was to just go, instead of putting one scoop in, I just went scoop, scoop, scoop. I had a bunch of bags and just went scoop, 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 put it away. And then the next thing, the flaxseed. Instead of just putting flaxseed into the blender for that day, which is what I've been doing forever, I just went tick, 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 tick into 16 of them.
Yeah.
Wendy, like, this is like, so like, duh, but it's genius. Now that I see it, it's genius, but I just never thought of it. So I think that I think it's revolutionary. And the good thing is that if people, their family, like, oh, I don't want to eat that stuff, that healthy stuff. It's like, you have it available for you. If they want to, participate, there's bound to be something you've made that they like. You're like, I'm having avocado, this, that, and the other. You don't want that. Okay, well, I have chili. Okay, so you reheat the chili.
Yeah, exactly. And the nice thing is that while I do have a lot of things that are reheated, like chili and big pots of soup and things like that I make, but there's these raw freezer meals, they're not leftovers. You're just putting all the ingredients in the bag so that when you are ready to fix your meatloaf or your Chinese beef and broccoli or whatever it is that you all want, it goes right in the crock pot or a sheet pan meal or something like that.
Right.
And I'm telling you, I have a picky family and they love these recipes. They don't think they're eating healthy. I've just used healthy ingredients that just make it all taste great.
So you're a big fan of crock pots.
That is one of the things that I use for sure.
Okay. And you're a big fan of like casseroles?
I'll do usually maybe one a month, where I'll make it in a big casserole. Being a Southern girl, I used to make everything into a casserole, but I do a little less of that now. But I'll do like cauliflower taco bake. That's one of my husband's favorite, and that's actually one of the things I love to do, is because I'll fix that and say my husband isn't crazy about my fish dinner that I'm fixing or my, avocado, whatever, then he goes, you know what? It's good. I've got all this cauliflower taco bake over here, and he'll heat that up and he's happy. So.
Yeah, it's really, really smart. And what's helpful too is that you give the portions, which I realized lately, I've been suffering from portion distortion.
Yeah, a lot of people do.
It's funny because I used to have a program called the 90-day renewal, and I ran that for decades. And one of the things I taught about was portion distortion. And yet I realized I've really slipped back into it. Like, I'm just like making up my shakes, just like, because I'm not a kitchen person. So I'm just kind of slopping it in. I'm not measuring it. You tracking with me?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And like filling the shake. And now that it's pre-measured, pre-ready, I'm not distorting the portions anymore by eating it and guessing it. And I'm like, oh, that's how much I should be having in there. So it's really, it prevents that portion creep and the portion distortion from happening, because it's pre-portioned to the right amount of food that you should be having. And I know you mentioned briefly, I don't want to get too nerdy, but you talked about nutrient density. Do you want to say just a word about that? Like, if I can have like 16 ounces of Doritos versus.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. A lot of people hear me joke about how I'm going to break everybody of calorie counting. And that's because we went, for decades thinking, okay, well, I'm just going to portion out those Doritos and figure out how many calories those are. But I had somebody I recently showed, if you take, and actually I think I bring this up in the book as well, is that you can get a supersized meal at McDonald's or any fast food place that's roughly 1,200 calories. You're going to be hungry again in 3 hours.
Right.
But I could fix you a meal plan of 1,200 calories for an entire day, and you'll be saying, oh my goodness, Wendy, I couldn't possibly eat all this food. And it's the nutrient density of what you're eating that is what is going to help your health in the long run, and you won't overeat because you're
Yeah,
actually.
and that's how you save money. And I know we touched on this earlier, but I think it's important because I think that the two things that people object to is time and money. I don't have time to prepare this healthy food, and I don't have money because healthy food is expensive. And you really do eat much less because
Yeah.
there's nutrient density. Your body's getting what it needs, and you're not, like we talked about earlier, you're not getting these, I mean, sinister chemicals that are designed to make you eat more and more and more and more and more and more. So yeah, that bag of chips, highly addictive, filled with chemicals. It seems cheaper than a little bag of, or do you like cashews or whatever, something, but it's really not, because you're
Right.
going to eat so much more of it. And that's not even talking about what it does to your health. So are we on S?
S, yes, is storage. And there's just, depending on what type of situation you live in, whether or not you have just your one standard, side by side fridge and freezer. Some people have additional freezers. Some people like to can their foods. So I show you how you want to store all of these amazing things that you have cooked, and how to do it so it will last the longest. I personally am a canner. I know that that's not the standard in this world, but I've grown up doing it, and I have a big garden. And so I do can a lot of my things, and then they'll last 18 months. But, if you're doing these raw freezer meals, you can, they can actually last up to 3 months. So even if maybe you made too much one month, it's not like you've got to be on this race against the clock and say, oh my gosh, it's time for me to make next month's, and I'm not, I still have all this left. Well, then make less next month. It's not going to go bad. Just rotate it and store it properly.
There may be an additional expense, and I know you talk about, maybe setting aside some money to build up for when you do the first big meal prep, but over time it saves money. So if you were to give people just one piece of advice, your best piece of advice about how to look better and feel better by eating better, what would be the one piece of advice that you would give?
The number one thing would be to switch over to a clean eating lifestyle. And I know that that sounds like that's all encompassing of a whole lot of things, but start slow, start at the pace that works for you. If you're not feeling well, and if you will just give it 2 weeks, it's going to change your life. If you just make sure that you're not consuming all of these extra processed foods. I keep everybody off of gluten and soy because they're so inflammatory. And if you give yourself even a week, I do. As a matter of fact, you know what? Come and join my 4-day clean eating challenge.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many people do these challenges with me, and they're like, how do I feel this good after 4 days?
Wow. 4 days. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I love that. Okay. So if they go to simplifycleaneating.com, simplifycleaneating.com, that will give them a link over to get their book. If they're joining us live, they can get it free all this week on Amazon Kindle. And after that, if you have Kindle Unlimited, you can still read it for free, or it's just going to be a few dollars, or they can get the paperback, which I would highly recommend. They'll also find out about your Facebook group. They can also get a free download of all your 50 of your best recipes. That's free. They can get that on that page. That'll take them to the Facebook group. They can find out about your club. I think a lot of people are going to be interested in being part of this club, where once a month you send them all the ingredients that they need, and you get together and live on a Zoom like this, and you do all your cooking. I really love that idea. And you're going to do the 4-day clean eating challenge. People want to get in on that. What are the dates for that for those who are joining live?
That's April 10th through 13th, and I'll be broadcasting that live in my Facebook group,
Awesome.
which is Simplified
Right.
Clean Eating with Massey
Right.
Wellness, and that's at 7 o'clock Eastern each one of those
Awesome.
nights.
And you can leave those videos up, right? So if people are
Yes.
catching this replay on YouTube or somewhere, even if they miss it live, they can go back and they can watch those replays and still see those videos. That's wonderful. Okay, so is there anything else that we want to cover? I think that this has been amazing. I think what you're doing is incredible. And it's like we comfort others with the comfort we ourselves have received from God. And if those of you who missed the beginning, watch the replay, because it was out of her son's incredible health crisis, 6'2" down to 118 pounds.
So
I mean,
6 foot.
I can't, 6 foot tall. Can't even, I mean, can you imagine that's your child? A mother will do anything. And so she fought for this and she found the answers, and is now well on her way to being a PhD in integrative medicine and taking a more holistic approach to health and healing. And this is a big bestseller.
Thank you.
This is one of my biggest books. I mean, you're giving some of my big bestsellers a run for the money. And I'm just praying Amazon's going to take notice and start really, really promoting this book. I'm believing and praying for that. And I think you're well on track to being one of my biggest success stories. So it's really exciting to watch.
Thank you. It's very exciting to be a part of. I really appreciate all you've done to help me.
Yeah, it's been amazing. Tamara, did I miss anything? Any questions?